bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
What's up? Fade to Black Monday. All right, had to flip a couple switches. What is up, everybody? Yeah, good to be back in the chair. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Today is Monday, September 14th. 257 days into the new year, 108 days left. Wow, 2016. Oh, man, and apparently it's 11 days to the end of the world. All right, we are live from the City of Angels Studios right here in downtown Burbank, California. COA Paper. Makers of the Fade to Black e-juice. It's called Fader Loops. Just go to the COA banner, jimmychurchradio.com. Use the promo code Jimmy for the Fade or Not special. Go do it now. It's good stuff. I do it. For KJCR on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet, I'm your so humble host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Had a great weekend. I hope you did. As well, I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, very special guest, Buff Parry, is back with us. And tonight, we will have an exclusive reveal to his latest Decode. He's a decoding master. And that's what we will be doing tonight. So get ready, buckle up, get comfortable. It's on tonight on Fade to Black. Great week that we have, lined up tomorrow night. David Weatherly, right here. His new book, The Intruders. So we've got Black-Eyed Children tomorrow night. We've got Slender Man, Intruders. And I'm going to tell him my story tomorrow night. Let's see what he has to say about that. And let's see, Wednesday, Scott Wolter will be here. And Scott's new show premiered this weekend on History Channel. Did you see it? It's called Pirate Treasure of the Knights Templar. And it was great. They premiered 2 episodes, 1 and 2. And I was glued. And so I'll tell you how people get booked here on the show. This is no joke. Rita and I are watching episodes 1 and 2, and we're just like, wow, whoa, really? And Rita goes, get him on the show. So at midnight on Saturday, kind of throwing Scott and I under the bus, midnight Saturday, I get a hold of Scott, and he said, absolutely, man, let's do this. So that's it. How cool is that? Right after his show premieres, we'll have Scott to come on, and he's got other things, too, that are overlapping from the last time he was on the show. He promised to do some disclosure on some things with us, so we're going to be doing that on Wednesday. I happen to know before when Scott was on the show, I was pressing him for this information. Now I know it. And you are not going to believe what is going to happen on Wednesday. So there you go. So Buff Parry tonight on just what a great week. I'm giddy, and you guys just kick back and enjoy it. You guys are spoiled rotten. A couple of other announcements. Not this Friday, but next Friday, the 25th, Friday night, we're going to go and host Coast to Coast AM. There you go, Fadernauts. So it'll be a Friday night show. And we're going to be doing open lines on Friday, like they do on Coast. So come and hang out. That'll be Friday, September 25th. We haven't announced the guest yet. We'll do that on Thursday, by the way. That's not up to me. That's up to Coast. But that'll be on Thursday. But I'll be hosting Coast Friday the 25th. And then the 26th, the Hangar One UFO MUFON Symposium, Hangar One Hangout, is going on Saturday. So great weekend next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. And looking forward to it. Always fun to do Coast to Coast, and really fun to do Coast to Coast on a Friday. And being able to sit there and say, west of the Rockies, Wild Card 2. You know what I'm saying? It's great. So I'll be doing that next Friday, the 25th. Come and hang out. Yes, the MUFON Symposium is September 25th through the 27th at the Hotel Irvine. Just go over to MUFON.com. You can get all your tickets and info there. And that's we're here. It's today's the 14th. It's next week. So really looking forward to hanging out with everybody. All right. Skyfire Summit 2 is coming up as well. I got, and that's November 5th through the 8th out in Heber, Arizona. Travis Walton, David Hatcher Childress, Dr. Leo Sprinkle, Lee Spiegel, Tracy Torme, Ben Hansen, James Fox, Lynn Katai, Jennifer Stein, No Torres, Alejandro. Alejandro, you only say he's got one name. You just say Alejandro. He's dropped his last name. Now it's just Alejandro. And that's pretty cool. When you go to the level of, Cher, Madonna, Sting, Alejandro, he's going to be there. Paula Harris. So that's the Skyfire Summit, November 5th through the 8th. And you can go to skyfiresummit.com and check that out as well. All right. It is Monday. I'm back in the chair. Had a great weekend. Friends, family. Yes, we posted all those foodie pics yesterday because yesterday was Wolf McCarran's birthday. And for those of you that have been with us since the beginning, I believe the second show that we ever did was with Wolf McCarran, and we videotaped it. And so there you go. Wolf McCarran's birthday yesterday. One of the cool things about Wolf, and so Mike Barra, thank you. He stopped by. Alex Mistretta and Rita just made sure that it was just the grandest of all evenings. Thank you, Rita. But Wolf, for those of you that don't know, Wolf was one of the original cats back in the day at Area 51. 1988, 89, 90, 91, back in the day. Okay? And Wolf, he videotaped for years out there at Area 51 and did lots of other really cool illegal things. And but yesterday, just to sit around with Wolf and listen to him tell his stories, I got to tell you, it's good stuff when Mike Barra shuts up and listens. It's a good evening. Bump. Yeah, I said it. But yeah, it was just awesome. So happy birthday, Wolf. Barra, just a great evening. Mistretta, thank you so much. And there you go. We stayed up until 2 a.m. Yes, we did. We stayed up until 2 a.m. But it was a beautiful, warm summer night. And, when you've got company like that, you kick back and talk. And it was just absolutely a perfect evening. So here I am now. I am bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, man. I am ready to go. So let's get the show cracking. There you go. There's my Monday ramble on rant. Let's get the show cracking. But woke up today to some very sad news in the world of rock and roll. Gary Richrath passed away. Lead guitarist, singer, or songwriter. Yeah, he sang a couple songs too. For REO Speedwagon. Died at the age of 65. And the cause of death at this point has not been given. But for my generation, you know, that early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, certainly Midwest crowd, REO Speedwagon was it. And man, it just really hit me today because Gary, very underrated guitar player in the world of rock and roll, but for guitar players, him and that cherry sunburst Les Paul flamed out, and he just had the sweetest tone, and just, man, you know, boom. 65 years old, passed away today, Gary Richrath. And I could do the rest of the show on Gary, and we could just do that, and I'm tempted to do it. But the show must go on. Gary, you're in a better place, and there you go. All right. Let's see where am I at today? Aha. Remember the band? Aha. Frontman Morton Harkett, 56 years old. And, you know, Take On Me. Now, I'm just going to say this before I move on. Take On Me and Aha are as responsible as any band for putting MTV. There would be no MTV today if it wasn't for that Aha video for Take On Me. And that's it. Yeah, Morton, there you go. Aha, 56 years old. Our dead guy's birthday today is, moment of silence, Amy Winehouse, 1983 to 2011, died at the age of 27. By the age of 27, she was already a 5-time Grammy Award winner. The first time any British singer had won 5 Grammys, swept the Grammys in one night. Amy Winehouse. That album, Back to Black, became the best-selling album of the 21st century in the UK. Winehouse's bodyguard said he arrived at her residence 3 days before her death and felt she was drunk. And he observed moderate drinking over the next few days. He observed her laughing, listening to music, watching TV at 2 a.m. And then on the day of her death, according to the bodyguard, at 10 a.m., he observed her lying in the bed, tried unsuccessfully to wake her up. Didn't work. And there you go. Called 911. And after a couple of more bed checks, and that is that. Amy Winehouse. Tragic. Happy birthday. The word of the day is still spoon. That's because this is Fade to Black. Spoon, I forget who tweeted it out. You can go ahead and retweet whoever said this. Jimmy, you like the word spoon because it combines space and moon in one word. Spoon. Kind of like that. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Buff Parry is with us. Very, very special exclusive reveal is going to happen tonight on the show, so just be patient. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. And you can follow us on Twitter @JChurchRadio. I'll be back with all the news that you know nothing about right after this short break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts.
My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade or Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Cracks me up, man, when I look over at Twitter and I say spoon. And Twitter, you guys are crazy. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Getting situated, man. I love sitting in this chair. Man, I missed it. Oh, yeah. It's just me and you in a dark studio. Always remember that. It's dark in here. I should take a picture right now just so you understand. It is dark, man. Dark. Can barely see the microphone. And that's the way I like it. All right. Let's get the show cracking. On this day in history, it was a big one, too, today. September 14th, on this day in history, 1959, a Soviet rocket crashed into the moon, becoming the first man-made object sent from Earth to reach the lunar surface. And I don't think it was Sputnik that did it. It kind of, raised temperatures a little bit, but that really meant that the space race was on. And yeah, that happened in 1959. And here's a cool fader fact for you. Voyager 1, V'ger. Who even knows what V'ger means? Let's see. Let's light it up. The first person to know what V'ger means in Twitter, I'll send you a T-shirt. Light it up right now. The first person that says, I know what V'ger means. What is the reference to V'ger? Voyager 1 will pass another planetary system in the year 40,272 AD. The year we made contact. All right, I'm looking. No. V'ger. What is the connect? Come on. I'm looking. Of course it's Voyager. Allison Bell. Allison Bell beat out Space Boy. I watched it click myself. Allison Bell, you're 100% right. Star Trek. The V'ger. That was pretty cool too. I remember in Star Trek when that came, I was like, V'ger, what's V'ger? V'ger. Voyager. Allison Bell. You've already got a T-shirt. Rita, send Allison something. We'll put something in the mail tomorrow. Allison, tell Rita what you want. Whatever you want. You want a Jim R's autograph book? Travis Walton, I've got some of those. Stan Friedman autograph books. Let's see. I don't know. We've got a lot of Mike Barra. Oh, man. So, whatever you want, Allison. That was good. James Hogue came in. Mike Spiteri came in, too. And there you go. Les came in. Everybody came in. You guys are just a little bit late. Allison was first. I saw it myself. Okay, before you think it's rigged. Allison was first. But I need to start videotaping this stuff. All right. 40,272 AD. Boy, Voyager's going to reach another planet. All of the news that you know nothing about. Big news today. The oldest Egyptian leather manuscript has been found. And it's not what you think. This thing, okay, I'm gonna do the beginning at the end. It's dated from the late Old Kingdom to the early Middle Kingdom, 2300 to 2000 BC. The roll itself is 8.2 feet, and it's filled with text and colored drawings of the finest quality on both sides. It's double-sided. So we have 16.4 feet of text and drawings. It's all there, right? But check it out. Guess where they found it? On a shelf in the Cairo Museum, where it sat for the last 70 years after it was. And there you go. But they found it again. A French court is upholding a poisoning case against Monsanto. The court confirmed a 2012 ruling that Monsanto was responsible for the intoxication by its Lasso weed killer. You know, the weed killer, it's called Lasso, and ordered Monsanto to fully compensate the defendant. The farmer said that he suffered damage to his health in 2004 after inhaling fumes while he was using Lasso on his maize crop. Of course, Monsanto comes back and says, you know what? It's perfectly safe. It's not dangerous. And we're going to appeal the decision. This is what I say you do. It's safe? Okay. Let's get the CEO of Monsanto. Have him drink a cup of it. Hey, you know, have him sit in a room and just start spraying weeds. Just start spraying the room and see if he'll sit through it. That's what I say we do. Man, you wouldn't want me to be in France right now. I swear to you, I'd make him drink a cup. How safe is it, brah? Have your wife inhale this. Is that cool? Man, Monsanto lost, and they're going to appeal. Just wrong. The summer of 2015, the months of June, July, and August was the warmest on record. That's right. According to the latest figures from NASA. An atheist church, yesterday at Wolf's little birthday bash over at Cassidy Church, I had heard this on the radio yesterday, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And so I brought it up yesterday at the little cookout, and it was an interesting conversation. So today I fished for this news story, which I found it, and then boom, Renee sends me this in my email. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to cover it. I have to. Because an atheist church that was founded in Las Vegas is named after the most worshipped breakfast meat, bacon. Currently, the United Church of Bacon has gathered over 12,000 members under leaders whom they call the Bacon Prophet, the Institutionalized Thought Leader, and Funk Master General. Now, the church encourages its members to follow the church's 9 commandments. They said that they don't have a 10th commandment because it wouldn't fit on their tablets. I'm not making that up. It was in the press release. But these are their 9 commandments. Be skeptical. Respect boundaries. Normalize atheists. Normalize religion. Have fun. be good, be generous, praise bacon, and protest bias in the law. That's a pretty cool church, isn't it? It sounds like my 9 commandments, too, as well. Because they've got praise bacon in there. Okay. I'm going to do this, and then we'll get to the rest of the news later. Because today I was sent 28 facts about coffee. So I went and I came out of that 28. I came up with the top 10. Okay? It sounds like I wrote this. I didn't. It was sent to me. But it's pretty interesting. And here we go. Number 1, shepherds discovered coffee in Ethiopia in 800 A.D. I would have thought it was much older than that. I thought Ramses 1 and 2 were drinking coffee. But no. Ethiopia, circa 800 A.D. Number 2, coffee is the second most traded commodity on Earth. Number 3, in Italian, espresso means when something is forced out. So now we've got a new meaning for espresso, right? Quarterback gets kicked out of the game. He's been espressoed. Coffee was the first food to be freeze-dried. Yeah. Coffee is actually a fruit. Number 6, the world's most expensive coffee is $600 a pound, and we know it comes from cat poop. New Yorkers drink 7 times as much coffee as the rest of us. Yeah. Number 8, in the United States, 80% of adults consume caffeine every day. Number 9, the average worker spends $20 a week on coffee. $20. And at $5 a pound, that's 4 pounds. Think about that for a second. And number 10, my favorite, coffee stays warmer when you add cream, but it weakens caffeine. And there you go. This is Fade to Black. When I come back after this short break, Buff Parry will be joining us. Tomorrow night, David Weatherly right here. Wednesday, Scott Wolter is with us. Thursday, Fader Night, open lines. And I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be back right after this.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Today, everybody, the Fadernauts and planet Earth is vaping, and I'm very proud to announce our very own e-juice. When we were approached by City of Angels Vapor about Fade to Black e-juice, I wanted to make sure that it was the very best, and that the flavors were something that I could create myself, and we did just that. Introducing Fade to Black Fader Loops. This will take you right back to Saturday morning cartoons and your favorite bowl of fruity, loopy cereal. Just click on the banner or go to www.coavapor.com. Enter the promo code Jimmy for the Fader Not Special. That's www.coavapor.com. Gobekli Tepe.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you. And your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Attention, all Fader Knots. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's JimmyChurchRadio.com, Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy. Gobekli Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. This is Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. If you have any questions for myself or Buff Parry, just follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio and then use the hashtag F2BQ. It's hashtag Fade to Black Questions, F2BQ. That feeds me right here in the studio, and you can just hang out in real time with the show tonight and Mr. Parry. And I'm excited to have Buff back on the show. And this audience knows me. I am fascinated with not only ancient history and lost civilizations, but the lack of real information and education for all of us on what is reality and what has gone on not only here in the United States but around the world, and going back to my favorite words are Gobekli Tepe. Gobekli Tepe is real. It's here. It's now, and it is a true game changer. And how does it tie into all of the world events now too, as well, and discoveries and archaeology? It's something that maybe today we don't have all of the answers to, or maybe none, but it's certainly going to start answering questions for all of us. And Buff Parry has been dealing with all of that. He's one of the smartest guys that I know. Buff Parry was born in the southeastern San Francisco Bay Area at the end of 1947 on December 28th. He continued his education in the U.S. Air Force, learning to systematically detect embedded sound patterns and codes in radio ops. Later, to become a member of the Pacific Ground Electronic Engineering Installation Agency, Mr. Parry studied at the San Jose State University, Carleton University in Ottawa, and taught in 4 faculties at the University of Regina. Mr. Parry still occasionally teaches at the University of Alberta and at St. Stephen's College, and guest lectures at universities, museums, and other venues around the world. He will be speaking at the Parliament of World Religions in Salt Lake City this October 15th through the 19th. And the featured speaker at the event is the Dalai Lama. I would like to welcome back to the program Mr. Louis Buff Parry. Buff, how are you tonight, sir?
Well, excellent. Just following the Dalai here. I'm honored.
You know, there's some good humor in that, and it's also a very serious thing. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than the Dalai Lama himself. That's pretty cool. It stopped me in my tracks the first time you told me about that. And you know what, Buff? It was so crazy. I had to go and verify and vet that one. You know what I mean? It's just like, you could say any name out there, but the Dalai Lama, that's pretty cool. You must be feeling pretty special.
Oh, yeah. I do. I'm not a Buddhist, I have to say, up front. I admire many aspects of Buddhism, whether it's Tibetan or Zen or otherwise. It's a fascinating religious development. Not one that I've internalized as my own, but I'm taken by the Dalai Lama. I have some issues, kind of minor issues, but issues nevertheless with Tibetan Buddhism and its relationship to shamanism. That really fueled the rise of Buddhism generally and separated it from Hinduism, but we're getting all theological now.
Well, yeah, we are, but and we're not going to. We are a little bit. But look, I've got issues with Catholicism, but I wouldn't mind hanging out with the Pope. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Oh, especially this one. I totally agree with you there, and I probably have a little more to do with Catholicism, especially with this Pope and his Jesuit background, and I have had with others that I've admired to an extent. But this particular Pope is a real challenge, and he's venturing into areas no one ever dreamt a Pope would venture into, and we're talking about some pretty outlandish popes in history here.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Buff, one thing, I don't know if I've asked you this before. I'm going to do it now in a more direct sense. To be able to decode, and certainly the way that you are able to look at things, it's a gift. It's a talent. When did you start to be able to look at something and figure it out in 3D and connect dots? Did this start at a young age? When did it start? Because it seems like you made it a career going back to the Air Force. So was it just a gift that you were given?
It was, and I'm definitely concluding that I received a gift. I didn't realize the better part of my life that I was even doing it. It wasn't something that seemed out of the norm or necessarily exceptional. A couple times I got that light bulb experience where I realized this is exceptional. But in general, I've just kind of gone through life deciphering things, and it's seemed to me to be quite natural all along the way. But in the last 10 or 15 years, it really has sharpened and become clearer and apparent that there's some kind of I'm rising to something when I'm doing this now that I didn't really realize as much in the past that I was rising toward, and I can't explain it. What it is, it happens that all these decodes are very, politically controversial. They have to do with 9/11. They have to do with all kinds of things. The Holy Grail, which was what I never called the object, the Holy Grail, ever in my entire experience of decoding, but what has become, known as my search for the Holy Grail. It really was about a stone tablet that very, very notable, founders of science were writing about when they discovered that it had been found by Louis Joseph La Vérendrye. And we can go further along this line if you wish. The documents I read about that stone tablet were from Alexander von Humboldt, the first one. In his book, Ansichten der Natur, he wrote it in German. It translates to Views of Nature. And he describes with some amount of detail what was in an interview that was conducted by the founder of botany and taxonomy, Carolus Linnaeus' favorite student, Père Comte, who had come to North America to collect botanical samples and bring them back to Europe. And in his visit, he decided to interview Pierre Gauthier de Varenne de la Vérendrye, the father of Louis Joseph, who had found this tablet. And in that interview, he got the full account of what the scouting party had seen on the way to ending up discovering the tablet. And I mean, I wasn't back then thinking Holy Grail or anything of the sort. I mean, I still don't use that terminology for this object, but I know I've been on the trail of something that others didn't go very far down, really didn't go far enough down to keep up their interests. They all accepted that it was lost on the way to Paris from Canada. And I know that didn't happen. I know what happened to it, and that's another story in itself. But the point I'm getting at is I really half the time don't even realize what the magnitude is of the subject that I'm getting involved with when it comes to some of these decodes. And this is a really good example. This stone tablet that La Vérendrye found in the hollowing of a sandstone pillar and so on, gave it to the Jesuits to translate because it had an inscription carved into it. And they sent it off to the person who was the Secretary of State and the Secretary of the Marine, the Count of Maurepas was his formal title, and he was a kind of a clandestine, supporter of the Jacobite movement, and then he became very overtly supportive of the Jacobite movement, which was the movement to reinstate the Stuart dynasty on the throne of England.
Well, before we get to the meat of this new decode tonight, I don't want to jump ahead. So let's kind of set the stage a little bit here. And I have to ask you this. When Dan Brown came out with the Da Vinci Code and he picked up that book and you started reading it, was it easy for you? Because it set the whole world on fire. There's no doubt about it. I bought all of the Decode books and I got sucked into it like the rest of the world. And it was kind of a fun period too for all of us because we were also discovering parts of history that we may have never jumped into if it wasn't for Dan Brown. But
that's right.
You picked up this book and did you just go, okay, this is a load of crap? Or were you able to debunk it in real time?
Well, to begin with, I had read Holy Blood, Holy Grail in the early 1980s, and that book indeed is the context of Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code. He lifted it right out of Holy Blood, Holy Grail. There's no question about that. There was a big court case in London that dealt with this issue of to what extent was it plagiarizing Holy Blood, Holy Grail. But so I had read it in the early 1980s and found it fascinating, and also found it directly paralleling work that I had already started doing in the 70s around this La Vérendrye stone that was discovered. And in fact, those three authors of Holy Blood, Holy Grail write about it.
You're talking about Lincoln and Lee?
Yeah, Henry Lincoln, Bejant, and Lee.
Yes.
They were making reference to an artifact that was a stone, and they didn't know what it was. They just knew of it by the materials that they were pouring through, and it wasn't really defined. It didn't have the Grail moniker yet, and although they were alluding to that there was something highly sacred about this item, so I became extremely interested in their pursuit that was laid out in Holy Blood, Holy Grail, to the extent that I went to Paris with Canada's Governor General's assistant, Janine Troubet, and we met with Jean-Luc Chaumaille, who had with him the affidavits, where two individuals were admitting to to a hoax about all of what led to Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and then the Da Vinci Code. You were about to say something.
Which allowed you to. You had all. You're a rare exception in that you've done all the research, and then you pick up the Da Vinci Code with everything. The Rose Line and Rosslyn Chapel and. We can go on and on and on and on about that. I don't want to spend time on the Da Vinci Code, but it's your ability to decode. When you pick up a book like that, you already had all the previous knowledge to it, and not so much about plagiarism of Holy Blood, Holy Grail, but you were able to decipher, decode everything that was in the Da Vinci Code.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for saying that. I hope and I trust I deciphered as much as I could of it. That includes the hoax, deciphering the hoax and the purpose of the hoax. Why did that even happen? What was underlying it, and how much truth remained in the hoaxification, if we want to call it that.
Right.
There's an awful lot that actually was retained that is accurate about secrets well kept, and having to do with great artists like Nicolas Poussin and his shepherds of Arcadia. There's no question about the degree to which both of those paintings. There's two different paintings that are named Shepherds of Arcadia by Poussin, that they are just riddled with codes. And once you get the keystone and you can build the arch and you have a secure arch as you're decoding, the whole thing falls into place. The whole set of those paintings fall into place, and you get an accounting that is an interpretation of one of the most beautiful biblical stories that there is, and it's the story of Jacob and Rachel and Benjamin and Joseph, their two sons.
Well, and then you have all of the fascinating things, not only that were in Holy Blood, Holy Grail, but for us that have followed the Knights Templar and other sites around Europe over years, just from basic research, Rennes-le-Chateau and the Priory of Sion and everything that was happened to pop up in the Da Vinci Code were things that we were already looking into, Oak Island and so when it comes to the Priory of Sion, even though it was referenced in Holy Grail, and there is a hoax that is involved with that too as well. But is it your take that the Priory of Sion, not today's modern documents that are forgeries, but that the institution itself is real?
But there's no question that the Priory of Sion existed, and nor is there any doubt about what happened to it when the Priory left the Jerusalem area. It ended up in Sicily, and in Sicily it was absorbed by the Jesuits. That's what happened to the Priory of Sion. Long story to that.
Actually, I kind of want to stay on this for a little bit, Buff. What about the references of all of the Grand Masters of the Priory of Sion in the forged hoax documents? How much of that is based in reality?
Well, that is where I think the hoax really peaks out. Leonardo da Vinci, for example, is presented as one of the Grand Masters, and to have the time to be a leader of an organization like that, were it to have existed in the manner it was presented, would have taken him away from all that we celebrate him for today. He just would not have had the time. He did have time to get involved in a secret society, and he certainly left a lot of clues around all of that. And that society is called the Order of the Crescent. And one of his two most important patrons, Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, also called Il Moro in Italian, which means the Moor, an interesting nickname to have if you're a Duke of Milan. He was central to the Order of the Crescent. He was the, if you will, Grand Master in Milan of the Order of the Crescent. It wasn't the Priory of Sion, but just replaced the names, and you still have a secret order, perhaps one of the most powerful that ever existed in Europe. And it's very understated because there's so little known about it. You have to do an awful lot of work to find information on the Order of the Crescent, but it's there. It's there to find. So with Leonardo, I would say absolutely not with the Priory of Sion, but absolutely with the Order of the Crescent, and that he did participate in secret activities of that particular order, but not to the extent that would have been required if he had been, the Grand Master of the Priory of Sion in the manner that it's presented. But he knew things, and he certainly coded them, and my decoding of his linguistic codes, has been roundly received by the most strident and disciplined of Leonardo experts. They don't have any problem with my decipherments of his linguistic codes or his music codes. I broke his music code. There are 2 or 3 other people running around the earth saying they did it. But that has to do with seeing, musical notes in the hands of the people at the Last Supper and things like that. He actually wrote music and used music notations. It's just that nobody knew how to read them. They couldn't figure out.
And what about Father Saunier over at RLS at Rennes-le-Château?
Right.
And his references to PS and Priory of Sion. How much credence can we give to that? How much weight does that hold?
I don't think it holds very much. I think that there is a mystery about that location, Rennes-le-Château. I definitely think there is, and I think some of the statuary in the chapel, is highly suggestive of another intent and motive on his and others' parts, but the full idea of his making the discovery that he is said to have made, and that he somehow became an instrument of the secret and its transmission, and he made this fabulous fortune by making the discoveries he is said to have made. I've got some problems with all of that. There are Catholic analysts who have, broken all this down and found that he could very easily have made the amount of money he made by other means, and then they, list the other means. So I don't invest a whole lot in what he did or is said to have done, but I do think there is something about that site. Not just the chapel, but the whole chateau, the whole of Rennes-le-Château. There's something else that happened in history there that would account for a lot of the notions and ideas that surround that location.
Is it just because it's a mysterious place? Is it just because it's an easy thing to write some fiction about for Dan Brown? Is that, you know what I mean? Is it just that? Is there an easy explanation for Saunier, how he raised the funds? Maybe he just stole it. Maybe there isn't a mystery behind Rennes-le-Château.
I think there's a mystery, but I don't think that it all rests on the shoulders of that priest. I think he was a tool in the midst of something that that has been going on for a long time in that general area. There are some mysteries around that area. Some of the peaks of the mountains and hills and so forth that you see showing up. At least it's thought that they show up in Nicolas Poussin's paintings. especially at in Arcadia Ego, or what's also called the Shepherds of Arcadia. There's a crag that is a kind of an awkward, lopsided peak of a mountain that is in the background of what is featured in those two paintings, and a lot of people have concluded that is a peak that is in that vicinity of Rennes-le-Château, and so that's part of the code of where things are hidden and so on. The problem with all that, and you're going to love this coincidence, I was in Greece. I was staying just outside of Tripolis, which is kind of like the capital city of Arcadia in Greece, in a little village called Nastani. And I was staying in the home of Chris Chelios' grandfather. Chris Chelios is a great hockey player. If you're into hockey, he was, one of the greatest ever. And he was born in America, and his dad I got to know. Long story how I got to know him. That it's just too long to get into right now. But one thing led to another, and I was on my way to Saudi Arabia on a business matter, and I ended up in this little village in Peloponnesus area, which is that big island-like region of Greece to the west and southwest. So there in Nastani, I was riding around on a donkey like people do there, and photos were being taken of me, and so I'm on this donkey and I'm riding around on a trail, this mountain peak.
Okay.
And I looked back over the photos over the years, and I started comparing some of the photos that were taken of me there with some of the highlights in Nicolas Poussin's paintings and in the accounts of Arcadia itself. What is it that's in Arcadia in Arcadia Ego? It is in Arcadia. What is it that's there? What's the big deal here? Why are there all these codes? And I started matching up these photos that I'm in with these sites that people were identifying in the region of Rennes-le-Château, except I was in Arcadia.
Interesting,
isn't it? I mean, it kind of blew me away that I'm right under the peak of this mountain on a donkey.
Were you able to? Did you go back to the painting and then go back to the photograph and just go like, "Holy crap"?
Yes, that's exactly what I almost did. To make it very literal.
Yes.
I almost holy crapped. I have to tell you, it was stunning. It just was. I knew that was the peak that Nicolas Poussin painted, the one in Arcadia, in the real Arcadia. In Arcadia Ego, the Shepherds of Arcadia.
Yeah.
And once that fell into place, once that decode, if we want to call it decode, all became one identifiable pattern. Everything else also fell into place, and I felt much more comfortable later in the 80s when I was making my discoveries in Paris with the Governor General's assistant and so forth, and spending a whole lot of time with Jean-Luc Chaumaille, who had been one of the early researchers and who had provided a huge amount of information to Lincoln, Bégent, and Lee. He's not even mentioned in Da Vinci Code or the first edition of Holy Blood, Holy Grail. He was all over it.
Yeah, Dan Brown should have had a totally different title page. He should have given credit where credit's due. Let's take a quick break right here. It's a good place to do that. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Buff Parry is with us. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. More with Buff when we come back after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Oh, Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRAradio.com.
Hey everybody, what's up? Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and check this out. The 2015 MUFON Symposium will be held this September 24th through the 27th in beautiful downtown Irvine, California. Expanding ufology, opening new doors in academia, industry, and media. Former Defense Minister of Canada Paul Hellyer will be there in person. Former CNN news anchor Cheryl Jones, TV news journalist Jaime Maussan, and MUFON's chief photo analyst Mark D'Antonio. They're just a few of the growing list of names for the 2015 event. It's September 24th through the 27th at the beautiful Hotel Irvine. Get your tickets today at MUFONsymposium.com. That's MUFONsymposium.com. Gobekli Tepe.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. This is Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Louis Buff Parry is with us. And Buff is going to be speaking at the Parliament of World Religions in Salt Lake City. It's going to be this October 15th through the 19th. You can go and check that out online. But the featured speaker also at the event is the Dalai Lama, and Buff is going to do a presentation there. And now, Buff, let's kind of do this because what you're going to be not only revealing now on the show, but this is what you're going to be doing up there in Salt Lake. And it is, it's complex if you if you're not familiar with it, or if you let it get a hold of you, and I'm talking about the listener. But the way that you present it, you and I have talked all week about this, the way that you present it, I can get my head around it. But it's also, quite frankly, history-changing, paradigm-shifting, dogma-changing, life-changing information. And I don't want to build it up for something that's, it is absolutely extraordinary. So let's start with, what is the name of your presentation, and how are you going to start to roll this out? Because you've got to throw a softball first.
Well, the name of the presentation is Chief Joseph's Holy Medicine Bag. And it'll also be the name of the booth we have there. There are several speakers, 4 of us, I think, in total. Maybe there will be a 5th. I haven't quite finished cobbling the speakers roster, but we're all speaking essentially to the same subject. It's a diverse group of speakers, but the subject boils down to what happened to the great chief Joseph of the Nez Perce Nation, which is Washington, more so Oregon, and dominantly today in Idaho. And what was it about Chief Joseph and his medicine bag that caused periodic waves of sensation every time there was a revisiting of the event? There was found in his medicine bag, and we're talking 1877 now, and we're talking about Chief Joseph leading hundreds of Nez Perce people, trying to lead them into Canada to join with Sitting Bull in the Cypress Hills region of what's now called Saskatchewan, the province of Saskatchewan. And he was stopped and arrested by General Miles. And what was found in the medicine bag was a very small clay-baked tablet with a cuneiform inscription. Cuneiform was a very, very ancient form of writing that had swept the entire Middle East. It sort of brewed out of the Persian Arabian Gulf region and early Sumer. And in relation to the Indus Valley script, it still is a mysterious writing form. And then something called Dilmun. The cuneiform arose out of that context in civilization, and it spread everywhere. It was the writing form of the Middle East for centuries and thousands of years. So what would a chief of the Nez Perce Nation, who had declared pacifism for his entire nation and urged all other indigenous military leaders to follow his way of putting down weapons and declaring peace, what would have been the circumstances for him to end up with this over 4,000-year-old artifact, and that he kept in, of all things, his medicine bag, which means that to Chief Joseph it had spiritual significance. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been put with other items in that medicine bag. So, we can fast track a few decades, and we end up with that artifact being studied at the University of Chicago, and Professor Biggs did the translation of it, and it's just mind-boggling. What it was, what was on it. It's about a sacrificial lamb. We're talking 2,000 years before Jesus here.
Right.
A sacrificial lamb. And the sacrifice occurred in relation to someone being entered into a priesthood on a certain day in a certain year.
Do you think the tablet itself was significant, or do you think that it was just a tablet that happened to have this reference on it, but certainly the chief didn't know what it said?
Right.
So do you think that was significant, or that it was just one of many tablets and Chief Joseph just happened to eventually possess it?
Well, first of all, there weren't a whole lot of cuneiform inscribed tablets that were floating around anywhere on Earth in 1877. It was 1900 when the big troves were discovered.
Right.
We're talking almost a quarter of a century before that. When he has this tablet, and his oral tradition that was relayed and recorded was as follows: these foreign people came amongst us, he said, and amongst my ancestors, and they gave us this gift. So clearly, when it was given, it was wrapped in a story about it, by the people who who presented it as a gift. So, I mean, when you look at it, there's nothing stunning about it. It's just cuneiform markings on a clay tablet, and a very small one at that. With it, there's no elegance to it. It's not calligraphy. It's just a cuneiform tablet. But he felt that it had some sacredness to it, and he would have learned that from whomever gave it to him. So, and he said it went many, many, many generations back.
Yeah, and so I guess my question is a little more direct, I guess, which is what the message on the tablet when it was that the intention of giving him that tablet because of what was inscribed on it, or not Chief Joseph, but whenever it got into the United States or into North America, was it the significance of the message, or is it just a gift?
Well, I think it's both. It would have to have been both. Since he couldn't read it, there would have been the memory transmitted through the oral tradition transmission system that all the indigenous tribes had.
Right.
And that's what told him it had some kind of sacred aspect to it, or sacred power to it. He was the conduit for a very mystically charged priesthood that is, I think, wrongfully called the dream cult.
Right.
It's more like a dream society of elder medicine practitioners, and everything was about dreams and animal spirits and so forth. And every chief of the Nez Perce was not a conduit for that society, for that priesthood. But he was. So he had something going on in the spiritual realm that was recognized by the elders and by the medicine practitioners, and that's an important aspect when trying to figure out why did he have this, and what did he do with it, and did he think it was like a St. Christopher medal or statue that people, Catholics especially, used to carry with them or have on their dashboards to keep them from having accidents and to travel safely?
Sure.
Was it a talisman?
Right.
Is that what it was, or just what was it to him?
And what does the oral tradition, as it hit Chief Joseph, when this tablet showed up here on in this part of the world?
I don't understand the question. What was his impression?
Yeah, what does the oral tradition say when this tablet arrived here?
Well, there's no calculating the exact date or precisely when was, because he used the terminology of many generations and ancient ancestors. So we don't know how many generations, or and the further back we go, from 1877 going backwards, it becomes ever more mysterious, because there were no such tablets floating around. And why would anybody give a chief of the Nez Perce Nation something like that he couldn't even read, or his ancestors something like that they couldn't read?
Right.
There's something about why it was transmitted, why that was given.
And was Nez Perce always indigenous to Montana?
No. They were Oregon and to some extent Washington State indigenous.
Okay.
And then and Idaho now very much so. That has a lot to do with. I mean, Idaho is right next to Oregon and Washington, so it's just walking across a little invisible border, to get to Idaho from either of those states. Where to go from this point here in terms of always where they were and where did they come from? Their Penutian, which is the Costanoans of California down in the Santa Cruz, Monterey Bay area. The indigenous people there were also Penutians. They were very closely related to the Nez Perce. So this is a large family of nations and speakers of Penutian languages and dialects. So they kind of spread out over quite a range. That was your question, right? You're wondering if they've always been in that location, or I mean, it depends on which branch you're talking about. But Nez Perce specifically, as far back as anybody who was recording any of this had recorded, they were largely in Oregon. There's even in Oregon a town called Joseph named after him.
Now, do you think we have to? We're going to continue to connect the dots here, and we're going to move on to the Hearn tablet here in just a second. But when it comes to Chief Joseph's tablet, for some reason I picture it arriving in Florida, or I don't know. I see East Coast. Just my mind says there. And worked its way all the way up into the Northwest, or do you think it came from the Pacific Ocean and across?
Well, because of the other artifacts found down in Bolivia that have cuneiform and Dilmun writing on them, there is a theory about the Pacific being the waters that were traversed to get these objects over to the West Coast area of North America and also into Bolivia. I don't agree with that. Because I have a handle pretty much on, and I lecture all the time about ancient trade networks, and I was considered and identified as an expert on the subject in the Supreme Court of Appeals in British Columbia to write expert witness reports on trade networks. So I know something about this area. And my conclusion is that there's no difficulty that's presented in getting some object that is rare, exotic, different from other indigenous objects from the Atlantic all the way to Idaho, to Washington, into Oregon. I don't see that as a big problem. The Mississippi River is named Mississippi because of the Cree language, and the Cree are the second largest nation in North America after the Navajo, and they're almost exclusively in Canada. There's one Cree reservation in Montana, Rocky Boy, it's called. But to have the Mississippi River named Mississippi rather than what it would sound like if it were one of the Ojibwe or Chippewa dialects or languages, it's indicative of the power and extent of the Cree trade network. So we have objects that only were obtained from the northwest coast of Vancouver Island that were found in the mounds down in Moundville in Alabama. That's a long distance to traverse to get trade objects from A to B. That's a vast stretch of distance. So to have objects coming in from the Atlantic coast of this continent all the way almost to the west coast is, to me, not it doesn't pose any major problems. There's nothing insurmountable about that. And Mississippi means big river in the Cree language, by the way, and that was a main artery of trade, bringing trade objects into.
And then, what is the Hearn cuneiform tablet, and where is it located today?
Well, it's located in Lagrange, and it's owned by the Lagrange College. And the story on it is interesting, and it's so innocent. It makes you not even want to think about going to questions of whether or not it's a hoax. I mean, that I have not concluded in any absolute way that it is not. My overwhelming sense right now is that it is not a hoax. That there is no hoax about it, considering especially the way it was found. It was a person named Mrs. Jo Hearn. In 1963, she was preparing a flower bed out of unbroken soil and with her hoe, she hit this lead tablet. So she pulled it from the ground and noticed there was some kind of script on it. So it found its way to Dr. Curtis Hoffman, who's a very, very reputable scientist whose profession is just this, translating ancient documents and artifacts, and especially cuneiform. So he described what he thought was carved into it, and I can read you here really briefly that what he found was the description of a scribe named Enlil, who was aware that it was either the 37th or 38th year of the reign of King Shulgi of Ur, around 2040 BC. And it recorded the sale of sheep and goats for sacrifice to Utu, the sun god, and the goddess Lama Lugal. So once again, something that was retained that sounds like a receipt, except that this is a lead tablet, and retained for 4,000 years. For what reason? My hunch is that, and there are several other artifacts like this. There are two in Ohio. There's one in Oklahoma. These were retained because they became each became a talisman. Each, was seen to ward off evil or somehow protect the bearer of it, because it had to do with something holy. A sacrificial animal is what's recorded on most of these artifacts. Something to do with a sacrifice for a deity.
Well, okay, 3 questions. I'm going to ask, no, just one question. I have 3, just one for now.
Okay.
Is there a possible look, if it's not if it didn't arrive here centuries ago or millennia ago, and it was deposited here in a modern sense, how could it have been discovered, brought over here, and then dropped in her garden? Because that would be the most logical explanation for the archaeologists, the historians, the authorities are going to say, well, somebody just dropped it there. You can't just go and disrupt history and say that somebody dropped it off here a couple of thousand years ago. That's just not going to fit any historical record. So we can't accept it that way. Is it possible that somebody was just coming back from the Middle East, happened to pick up this lead tablet in a bazaar, and accidentally dropped it in her garden in Georgia?
I think that's impossible, unless that same person picked up several other tablets, all with cuneiform, but written in different languages, and brought them over here for whatever reason, and traded or sold or imparted them to indigenous people, who then proceeded to use them as trade to obtain whatever they obtained in exchange. The fact is, all of these cuneiform items go to the same date, and that's what makes it so compelling. Why would they all be approximately the same date? Give or take 10 years, here or there. And if my theory is accurate, then give or take 10 years doesn't mean anything. It means that people recognized that there was something of value spiritually in these inscriptions on stone, on clay, on lead, that had to do with what the inscription stated, which usually had something to do with the sacrifice, and that imbued the artifact with some kind of spiritual power. So that's why people were were connected to these objects over a longer period of time, rather than leaving them back home or what have you. But in order for them all to have ended up on the same ship means that they...
Okay, hold on. No, we can't go there yet. Come on, don't spoil the surprise, Buff. Okay. So, yeah, come on. It's still radio. Come on. Okay. Listen, my loyal family out there. Listen, Buff and I have been talking about this all week, and we, so we're excited, and we're trying. I don't want to jump ahead, and we can't. So now we have. I didn't even want to mention the date yet because let's move on to the next piece, the Shawnee Creek stone. When and where was that found, and what is it made of, and what is inscribed on that?
Okay, the Shawnee Creek stone is an ironstone that has a carving on it, and it is the carving of the normal way that the ancient goddess Inanna was depicted. What's only more recently been learned is that the method of depicting her in a series of symbols actually turned out to be symbols for what's equivalent to an alphabet. And that each symbol told a story, like a hieroglyph, and that when you put them together, the story was the story of the goddess Inanna, and she's carved on this ironstone. So that ironstone emerges at Shawnee Creek in Oklahoma in the hands of a young Mexican fella who was associated with the penitentiary there. And all the details are a little sketchy about what his association was. People are trying to be polite, not getting right down and dirty, indicating that he was a prisoner. But regardless, he was found by him in 1989, and it's dated, and it is not anomalous to the other artifacts we're talking about, because it is in Dilmun script, and it depicts the goddess Inanna, who is the ultimate goddess of all of what we're talking about, all the people we're talking about, and the nations and civilizations. Inanna ends up being Venus in that particular goddess continuum. The end expression of that continuum is Venus. And so right after Inanna is Ishtar, and then Astarte, and so it goes until you end up with Venus taking the northern route. If you take the southern bifurcated route of the same continuum, you have Tanith, and you have Hathor, two goddesses of North Africa that also came out of the same continuum. So Aphrodite, in the north is just before, she becomes Venus, and this is extremely important because of the potency of this goddess. She was a fertility goddess, and a primary goddess, one of the first recorded, and just stuck. And was reiterated throughout the whole entire area going into Europe. I mean, this isn't the case with this is the only goddess continuum of its kind. So to have that, and I do connect it to the other artifacts, because the approximate dating that people have given to it is to the same time
and to the same place. And I want you to now explain. You have mentioned Dilmun script 3 or 4 times now in reference to each one of these artifacts, but I want you to give the who, what, and where in reference to Dilmun, because it's reference to a few different things as well as a location. Exactly.
Dilmun is in the old cuneiform writings that have to do with Utnapishtim and Gilgamesh and Enkidu, the old flood story. That it's very clear the biblical flood story, is directly parallel to the same story. They are in effect the same story. Dilmun became a form of writing, or it's the name of a form of writing of the Dilmun people. But if you really want to get right down into the prehistory of this, I have a colleague named Jeff Rose, who's pretty well known for his Gobekli Tepe National Geographic documentary and so on, who's done a huge amount of work on the whole story of exiting Africa, and he's taken a new direction, a new exit portal, and has the exiting of humanity from Africa following the bottom of the part of the Arabian Peninsula. And 8,200 years ago, there was this very interesting event that happened. That was a massive flooding that caused all the levels of the seas and oceans to rise, and that event came from Canada. It came from the collapse of a great ice dam at Hudson Bay, where the Hudson Strait is. And when the ice collapsed, all this ocean of water that had backed up due to glacial melt all poured in pulsations into the Atlantic. That caused a global sea level rising and ocean level rising. So in the Persian Gulf or Arabian Gulf, whichever you want to call it, there was an oasis there, a vast oasis the size of Great Britain, that was exposed. When the water rose, the people of that oasis had to go somewhere. And again, we're talking 8,000 years ago, approximately. Where did they go? They would have gone to the coastal regions, like what's now Saudi Arabia, where the 47 oil fields are in the eastern province, or to Qatar, or to Bahrain. That whole region. So the Dilmun people appear to be those who had occupied that oasis before it was flooded.
And they eventually migrated to the island of Bahrain.
Bahrain and generally the area, the whole Gulf coast on the Persian side and on the Arabian side, as we would call it today. But yes, the Bahrain it was called Nituki of Dilmun, and Nituki means the island of burning. The sacred island of burning bitumen.
And we'll get to bitumen in just a second. And so
okay.
for the audience, when archaeologists refer to Dilmun and Dilmun writing and Dilmun script, it's indigenous to the Bahrain area in Saudi Arabia. And we need to make that point clear.
Not in Saudi Arabia, connected to Saudi Arabia.
That area.
Yeah, exactly.
So when Buff is referring to Dilmun and Dilmun script, you've got to plug that in your head where geographically, and also the time, because it references. That's what I said. The who, what, and where. Who, what, and where when it comes to Dilmun refers to a location, it refers to a person, and it also refers to a date in history.
Yes, and the development of a civilization and a writing form that paralleled the very mysterious development of the Indus Valley civilization. And some of the Indus Valley characters in that script, the what's called Harappan, but it's the script, the writing form of the Indus Valley civilization. Some of the characters of that writing form migrated to, or found their way into the Dilmun writing form. So Dilmun includes elements of an even older civilization, which is the Indus Valley civilization. And so what we're looking at is this incredible trade hub that is Bahrain and is Qatar, that involved the Indus Valley traders, involved the Sumer traders, the traders of Akkad, the traders of ancient Egypt, just at the time of the rise of the First Dynasty, when Egypt was being flooded with lapis lazuli that was coming all the way from the farthest eastern border area that Afghanistan has with China. They're found, this lapis lazuli from that location is found in the graves of pre-dynastic Egyptians.
Did you just say lapis? You did.
Yes.
Yes. You
did.
I did. Yeah, you did.
No, I'm not trying to plug.
Yeah, inside
I'm not trying
joke.
to plug it.
Yeah, inside joke. Inside joke. I enjoyed it. Now with these three artifacts, and also tying into the goddess Inanna. What are the three things that are consistent? Not the three things. There's many things. What are the ties between these three objects?
Well, cuneiform is the first obvious one. The dating is the other tie-in. They go to the same, literally to the same date. Do you want to talk dates now?
Sure.
At this point, okay. We're talking 4,000 and X number of decades. It ranges from 4,042 to 4,030 to 4,020, depending on which artifact we're talking about. But there's a general constellation of time that is pretty much specific to all of them. And there's yet another one. That I think is extremely important. It was one that was identified by someone named David Owen. He was a professor of Assyriology and Sumerology, Near Eastern Studies at Cornell University in Ithaca, and he translated this Assyrian cuneiform tablet that was found near Quaker City, Ohio in 1978, and that he said it had an ancient provenance, and translated the text to read as follows: by a man named Ur-Ii in the month of Dumuzi, which actually is an ancient word for twin. Thomas comes from that word. Thomas Didymus of the Bible, the doubting Thomas, and so on. It's the same root that means twin. The month of Dumuzi, which is June, in the year of what would be approximately 2030 BC. The Ensi, meaning ruler, of Karzida was elevated. That's what's on that item. But here's the point. That inscription returns full circle to Chief Joseph's tablet with its reference to Nana, who's a moon god. And we're not saying Inanna here, but Nana, a moon god, because Karzida was the moon god's second city of worship. So that links directly to Chief Joseph's tablet. So we have this fourth item in cuneiform in Ohio that links directly to Chief Joseph's tablet. So we're dealing with more than 3 or 4 items here. We're dealing with about 6 or 7 if we want to include the Bolivian bowl. That has Dilmun, that also has Dilmun. Two of the things we're talking about have Dilmun in.
With this suggestion, and it's a powerful one, are you? What's your theory? Did it come over on the same boat, or was there a trade route, and these could have arrived here at different times?
No, I think they all had to come at the same time. That's my take on it. You wouldn't have them all with the same date, but with different languages, unless they came at the same time and came from a location where many different people were amassed, were trading, in effect. And there is such a location. I don't know if you want to jump onto that direction right now or not.
But no, go ahead. I'm following your lead. My brain is starting to explode.
Amongst a couple others.
Yeah, it's just absolutely.
Is there a break coming up soon?
Yeah, we have one in 20 minutes, and I can take a breather.
Wait, in 20 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
So 20 minutes. Okay, so let's go with locations.
So the location of a great trading activity was a place called Sodom. Remember Sodom?
Yes.
Right, and Gomorrah. So Sodom before it was destroyed, was a great trade city, and its main object of trade was bitumen. And bitumen, because bitumen rose up from the base of the Dead Sea.
And well, tell the audience what bitumen is.
Okay. Bitumen is, you've heard of the oil sands in Alberta. Yeah, it's a real controversy now in America because of the XL pipeline.
Yes.
Okay. So what bitumen is a raw kind of tar, asphalt. It's also called, that sometimes has sand mixed in it, and so we get, as a result, the tar sands that are used to draw oil from, and that's what would be going through the Keystone XL pipeline if that pipeline were to be created. So bitumen is a raw form of petroleum, if you will, and certainly it's also called asphalt. Just in its raw form, it's bitumen asphalt. And asphalt was used in many parts of the world literally to pave highways. There was something called the King's Highway in that time period of a little bit over 4,000 years ago. And the King's Highway came from the north, and what had happened was there was an alignment for a brief period between between Assyrians and Hittites, who were normally enemies, but to take command of this great trade center and trade hub, they joined forces, came down the King's Highway, and gained control of the greatest trade network in the entire region outside of the Bahrain region. So then something happened. I was tasked to write the what would be the right term, to promote the theory that's in a book called The Destruction of Sodom. A colleague of mine wrote it before he died last year, and had asked that I write the review. And so I did, and I do believe I sent you a copy of that.
Yes.
Of that cover. And so the review and my quote on the meaning of the discovery of the theory is so overwhelming. There's, you're hearing a noise, I bet, aren't you? And it's somebody who keeps trying to phone me, and I'm sorry about that, Jimmy. There's no.
Actually, it's just dropping out. It's not a sound, so we can ignore it.
Okay, good. So what I'll do in the break, I'll phone that person back and tell them what's going on here. So we've got Sodom as the great trade center. Then an earthquake happens because it's in a fault area. That region of the Dead Sea is on a fault zone. So a massive earthquake happened. We know that is absolutely the case. And with that earthquake came what's called liquefaction. So all of the materials under the top of the earth started to kind of liquefy in their movement as the earthquake was going on. That released big, huge balls of methane gas, and the methane gas exploded. So we've got kind of 3 or 4 things going on at one time. We've got an earthquake, we've got the methane gas happening, we've got we've got Sodom slipping, literally into the Dead Sea. And other cities and towns in the region were also slipping into this liquefaction activity going on underground. So out of that came the biblical accounting of Sodom and Gomorrah, and Lot and his daughters. You know the story.
Yes.
So that particular location was the center of trade for the vast part of the Western Near East. And when it happened, we're dealing with the very end of the Bronze Age, the beginning, phase of the Bronze Age, which was divided into 4 sections, and then going to the Middle Bronze Age. The jump from the old original Bronze Age to the Middle Bronze Age is the time period we're talking about. And there was this huge event that happened in the region that sort of caused a disruption, a truncation of cultural continuity, of connectedness, and then it recovered. That trade system recovered again. So it recovered, and the trade started again. And what we're talking about is the before and after event of this earthquake, and all the destruction that occurred. And then the recovery of the trade network that had existed before the destruction of Sodom. And I'm saying that is the location. It's the only trade network area where all of those languages that have been identified, written in cuneiform, ever were amassed at the same time.
And are we looking at 2040 BC? Is that the date?
Well, approximately. We have to be careful not to get fixed on a specific year, because people, held on to these things like people hold on to St. Christopher medals today.
Sure.
That's the point that has to be remembered. The reason we would have all these dates that span 2 to 3 decades, but most of them focus really on 2040 and 2042 in that time period, is because where you get one at 2030 BC, for example, it's because somebody's holding on to an item.
These dates are also so bloody specific. When we're talking 4,000 years ago, 2000 BC, and we're talking about dates of 2040, these are very specific. Is it because of the dialect itself of the cuneiform writing, or is there a specific date that's spit out that you can align with other historical record? How are we able to nail down a date of 2040?
Because of the names of the gods and goddesses, and each of these tablets are stating what year it was in the calendar of the time. So the people who have mastered, calendrical time reckoning today, the experts in that area, they just, in a minute or two, they can give you the exact date.
And is it also because of the linguistics that are involved too as well, specific words that are used that can be also nailed down to a specific time period?
To an extent, yeah, but let's not forget, we're dealing with Indo-European-based languages, and we're dealing with Semitic languages. The Assyrian language is Semitic. The Sumerian is Indo-European.
Right.
So, and yet they're together. They're found together.
And I want to get before we get to the break, I want to go back to Chief Joseph's medicine bag, and why is that also so important? Because that was obviously made after the fact. What is it on Chief Joseph's medicine bag that is so significant?
The Star of Asher is beaded onto the bag. The Star of Asher has an octagonal kind of morphology to it, a geometric shape that is called an octagon, roughly to it. But it's highly stylized. Chief Joseph had several medicine bags. This one has a very clear and distinct Star of Asher. The Star of Asher is found on the Assyrian flag of the Assyrian diaspora. And to have the Star of Asher beaded onto a bag that is holding another Assyrian artifact is, it just compounds the complexity of the mystery to all of this. Why would he have had that? Why would he have had that?
Could he, A, not have known anything about it, and maybe B, the person that made the bag just happened to think it was a cool design? I mean, can we?
Well, sure, there can be that coincidence. Definitely, it can be just written off as a coincidence, but it's a pretty bizarre one if it's connected to Assyrian, very distinctly Assyrian items together.
Right.
One inside the other. That to me is a little too close. I don't know how to explain it. Why would he have had that Star of Asher? But I can tell you that the Assyrian people of Iraq and Syria and the rest of the world have just rejoiced over all of this. The Assyrian Times, the newspaper of the Assyrian people and the whole Assyrian diaspora, has had 2 feature front page articles about this whole accounting of Chief Joseph with an Assyrian inscribed cuneiform inscribed tablet and inside of a medicine bag that has the Star of Asher. The Assyrians are ready to merge with the Nez Perce in some cases because they feel such affinity.
Well, the first time that I saw Chief Joseph's medicine bag, and I heard the reference, and I honestly thought that it was such breaking, astounding, crazy news that we would be reading about this on the cover of the New York Times. I actually thought that. I thought this is just too incredible. Now this is something where the academia out there and the archaeologists and the historians cannot deny this. It's too remarkable.
They can't, nor can they deny the vetting process that has occurred with these items. It isn't about there being any doubt concerning the authenticity of them. There's a scrambling to try to account for, well, then how did such a tablet get into the bag of Chief Joseph in 1877? So now there's an attempt by some to say, oh, well, some people got some artifacts mixed up and it ended up in his bag, and that there's a whole lot of exaggeration otherwise in terms of an oral tradition. And, people who just can't, get it in their mind that something like this item could have been part of a greater indigenous trade network that would have started on the East Coast and brought it inland, and that then the people who had left it on the East Coast with one of the indigenous nations were a people who had come from another part of the world, and so then how does one account for the story of that Chief Joseph gives, that it came to his people, many generations ago? The way I've dealt with that is, well, there was an oral tradition that traveled with this item from the East Coast, concatenating to each set of hands that received it, and then passed it along with the oral tradition. So if the original oral tradition was, there were some strange people who came amongst us and gave us this, then that is the story that passed with it from the East Coast to the Nez Perce when they finally received it.
Are you suggesting, Buff, that it was the Dilmun's, 2000 BC, a trade route, that is when these artifacts appeared here in North America? Or did it come from a later date and it got here in the 1600s?
No, I'm suggesting it. They all came they had to come at the same time. They had to come at the same time. They can't have come at different times and covered just that specific time period 4,000 years ago. So because of that, they probably came over here around that many years ago.
4,000 years ago.
Yeah. Otherwise, what ship is going to be holding people who come from these diverse backgrounds, but who all have cuneiform writing,
right,
and these objects together in one place?
Is there any evidence that they had, some type of transoceanic capability, a seagoing vessel? That
Plenty of it. The Cypro-Minoan Empire was a mercantile empire that traded on the high seas.
Well, to bounce around, from coastal city, port city around the Mediterranean or around Saudi Arabia and the Gulf of Oman, I can understand that, hugging the coast. But once you get out of the Straits of Gibraltar, and you pass up Spain and Morocco, you got nothing in front of you but, a really bad day. Yeah, that's a long, that's a long trip. So you're suggesting that they actually had ocean-going vessels 4,000 years ago?
No, we already know that was happening. That is the record. That ships were going onto the seas 4,000 years ago is well known. I mean, there's no doubting that. It's how far did they go into the oceans? The Phoenicians, the earliest Phoenicians, and that's a little bit younger, but 3,000 and some hundreds of years ago, the Phoenicians were going up and down the coast of Africa and of Europe. Settlements in Spain, for example.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So
they prove it. The reed ships out of the Persian and Arabian Gulf. The Thor Heyerdahl proved could be used to circumnavigate the globe.
Well, I'm excited about this and your presentation, but you're going to have somebody there. You're going to have a lot of like-minded people that are going to be excited about this, but you're going to have the guy that's going to raise his hand and go, come on. Okay? And so when you're going to face that, what is the one piece of the evidence that's irrefutable where that you would present?
Well, I think Chief Joseph's tablet is the one that's been vetted the most, that has the soundest provenience in terms of custodial handling of it and so on. At least from 1877 on. That's the one I would focus on as the most credible of them all, but the others are not very much less credible than Chief Joseph's. The people who have vetted these items are very well known. They're the tops in their fields, and they have come to no conclusion with any evidence at all that any of this is at all fraudulent. Again, the issue keeps popping up. Well, then somehow something got mixed up in artifact collections in museums, and that this is the result, which is just so absurd and such a pathetic, grasping and reaching for
it is
for an explanation. So let somebody be a cynic with me and a critic and be real analytical and try to refute all this. I hope that does happen. I challenge anybody who doubts listening to this right now to please come to the conference in Salt Lake City, and let's have a debate about this, because the arguments on my side, once all is said and done, we now have the trade network that did exist, that would have had all of these same kinds of people speaking these diverse languages, but all writing in cuneiform, who would be bearing items like this identified. That was the missing link before. That was what was missing. Now we have it.
Let's take a quick break. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Buff Parry is with us. Hey, Buff, when we come back, we're going to talk about my two favorite subjects, and yours too, Gobekli Tepe and Oak Island. This is Fade to Black. We'll be back more with Buff Parry right after this. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Are you a paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, or UFO skywatcher? If so, FNGinnovations.com has the product you definitely need in your investigations kit or go bag. Introducing the Morpholite Wide Beam Tactical Flashlights that put the light where you need it most. Traditional flashlights shine a focused round beam with limited line of sight in the dark. Morpholite Tactical Flashlights change all that, utilizing a revolutionary wide beam design to enable you to see safety hazards such as hanging wires and steel, pipes, and holes in the floor you just can't see with a focused round beam. In the field, where safety is paramount, a 180-degree beam increases orientation and peripheral vision in the dark. Morpholite flashlights are ideal for investigations in abandoned facilities such as houses and hospitals, factories, caves, and tunnels. Avoid those low-hanging tree branches that poke your eyes in the woods. Visit FNGinnovations.com to see a full line of tactical lights and accessories. That's FNGinnovations.com.
Now you can find all your favorite talk radio shows live, all in one place at TalkStreamLive.com. Listen from anywhere, office, home, or in your car. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com and click on one of the many live talk show hosts you want to listen to. It's free and easy. No computer? Download the smartphone apps. Never miss your favorite talk show. Find them all at TalkStreamLive.com.
Hey everybody, what's up? Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and check this out. The 2015 MUFON Symposium will be held this September 24th through the 27th in beautiful downtown Irvine, California. Expanding ufology, opening new doors in academia, industry, and media. Former Defense Minister of Canada Paul Hellyer will be there in person. Former CNN news anchor Cheryl Jones, TV news journalist Jaime Maussan, and MUFON's chief photo analyst Mark D'Antonio. They're just a few of the growing list of names for the 2015 event. It's September 24th through the 27th at the beautiful Hotel Irvine. Get your tickets today at MUFONSymposium.com. That's MUFONSymposium.com. Gobekli Tepe.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn
it. This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Buff Parry is with us. Talking about my favorite subjects, lost history, lost civilizations, Gobekli Tepe, Oak Island. Buff, when we talk about these ancient trade routes, and we have this, this situation on the East Coast with Oak Island. Is there a connection with the ancient trade routes and Oak Island? Is there something direct there as well?
Well, there's no evidence of ancient trade routes to Oak Island. There's nothing like the Spanish coins from the 18th and 17th centuries that have been found there. We don't have that kind of evidence to show that there was, a trade route that for some reason or other ended up on Oak Island. But I would be the last person to say that that's an impossibility, and that there might not have been. Well, I would never say that there were not, with certainty, any treasures or items that were hidden on a place like Oak Island, even as far back as the time we're discussing. If there was that a supremacy and a command of navigating the Atlantic, and I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting there were trade routes that were consistent and repeated over and over, through the years from Eurasia to the east coast of North America. Some people do say that, but I don't think the evidence is in really on that yet. Not sufficiently enough to argue that there was a consistent trade network that was going on that many years ago. The idea is that because their ships were being loaded from the area close to the Dead Sea, close to where Saddam was, ships were being loaded with bitumen, with asphalt, and so forth, and being brought throughout the Mediterranean. That is known. There's no doubt about any of that. Out of all of the thousands of times that ships left the area, some would have gone into the Atlantic. Some would have left the Mediterranean and, intending to go north or south, and ended up going straight. Got caught up in currents, got caught up in winds. When you look at over a long span of time, and you consider the number of ships that there were, inevitably there are going to be some that get caught up somehow or other into, ending up in the middle of the Atlantic.
Can you do a chemical analysis on bitumen and find its location and date?
Yep. Yeah, you can.
And
yes.
What kind of smoking gun would that be if they found a shipwreck on the east coast of the United States, with stores of bitumen on it, or a bitumen road on Oak Island? That'd be pretty bitumen.
It is known that bitumen was traded in North America from two locations. Mexico, asphalt was traded right up into the southern part of the United States from Mexico. And bitumen has also been traded up here because it has been used as a medicine over the millennia, over the thousands of years. It's been used as a medicine that is taken internally and used as a medicine for external application, ointments and liniments and things like that. So bitumen was also part of the medicine trade network, or networks that existed.
You've been researching Oak Island, as long as anybody. I've been doing it since 1995. What's your best guess as to what's going on?
Well, I don't think they're going to find anything in the pit. I think it was taken out, and I've gone over this a few times in different venues. We know that there was gold from a mysterious location taken and then delivered before the battle. It was intended to arrive in Scotland before the Battle of Culloden. And then the Battle of Culloden happened because the ship didn't get there in time with the gold to finance the Jacobite rebellion, and the Jacobites lost the Battle of Culloden, and that was in effect the end of the Jacobite rebellion until the American Revolution, which was Jacobite, supported, and I call it a Jacobite revolution, actually, the American Revolution, because it fulfilled the ultimate Jacobite promise, and the Jacobites who were exiled to North America all became part of that revolutionary movement. Long story, and I don't mean to digress into 3 or 4 directions at once here, like I sound like I'm doing, but the Jacobite phenomenon is extremely important. It's highly underrated and underestimated because the Jacobites did lose, and they weren't able to get the rightful heirs back on the throne, of England, which is the Stuart dynasty. And as a result, we still have, a family of monarchs that inappropriately took the throne from the appropriate family that should still be on that throne. If you're a monarchist and you think seriously about who has what right to what, the old Stuart line, King James the First, King James the Second, and so on. That's the line that was deposed.
Have you been contacted at all from History Channel or the brothers out there on Oak Island about what's going on?
Oh yeah, they phoned me. Sure.
And
they phoned me. They wanted to do something, and then they learned that I was putting it up on my YouTube channel, or I wasn't, but my students were, and they wanted to film me talking about the whole Oak Island mystery, and that came out in 3 parts. And the 4th part went totally viral. It's called the Oak Island Update, and in a matter of about 2 months, it got almost 60,000 viewers. And so I mean, this is a pretty good score for something of that sort. And so I've
what did
I've
you?
Dealt with it.
I want everybody to go watch the video. But what did you present in that caused such a an uproar?
Well, without mentioning names, I was contacted by someone who was using Google Earth technology to penetrate meters into the Earth. In a nutshell.
Say that again. Say that slower.
By using Google Earth technology, this individual with a partner had developed a way. I'm not saying I agree that this actually happened. I've not seen it in action, and I have a big problem with the one part of what was told to me. But that they're able to penetrate, many meters, many yards down underground, and they found that there was gold and silver and jewels on another part of the island, where the cross is laid out in boulders.
Right.
And so I posed the question: well, gee, if you can see with your technological invention that depends upon Google Earth, if you can see into the subsurface and actually discern the difference of gold from silver and jewels, then surely you know what the chamber looks like. It would be impossible to have a technology that can penetrate that deeply and know where the gold is in distinction from where the silver is, or the jewels, and not be able to discern what the chamber is like that all of this treasure is within. It just is impossible. You couldn't do one and then not do the other. But the individuals who brought this to me, said they were not able to discern what the chamber was made up of. I have huge problems with that. The Oak Island is on a quartzite till, and to get to a chamber and find gold, silver, and jewels and not be able to say what the chamber looks like, it's just, I can't take it seriously.
Is there a okay? Is Oak Island legend or legendary?
No, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's real. I think that there was gold kept there, and it was Jacobite gold. And Sir William Phips. This would take about an hour to go over the story of Sir William Phips and the fact that the person who challenged me and him the most is the same Graham Harris who had me. Before he died, had me established as the person who would write the whatever it is on the cover of his newest book, even though we had a complete disagreement about Sir William Phips and who his loyalties were with. And so Phips, who had helped King James II, the year before King James II was deposed, William Phips he knew about the Concepcion, the ship with all the gold and the silver, and he was moving it around. He had brought all of the silver to King James the year before James was deposed from the Concepcion. Mm-hmm. He then it is assumed took all the gold and put it in the money pit. And I agree with that. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And neither does Graham Harris, who's this individual who died, but who, before he died, had finished writing the book called The Destruction of Sodom. And so his position, Graham Harris's, was that Sir William Phips had switched his loyalty to the new monarch. And the new line of monarchs, who end up being the Kings George, who America fought against. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So my position is that he took the gold out. He tried to get it to the people who he had maintained his loyalty with, which were the Jacobites. And it arrived late, and the Battle of Culloden was lost, and they didn't have the gold to finance the rebellion against the usurper king.
Did any of the treasure ever surface that could be traced back? Or did it just disappear throughout time? Was it melted down and recoined and rejeweled?
There's right now BBC in Great Britain has been financing the search for this gold that I'm telling you about.
Right.
And it's been going on for a few years now. They've got archaeologists all searching. Some of it did surface.
Why do you call the missing link and the keystone the El Camino Real?
Well, it was a neat name. The El Camino Real, Spanish for the King's Highway, and
right.
And we talked a little bit earlier about the King's Highway that led to Sodom and led to the Dead Sea. So I just like the title, the El Camino Real. I grew up on the El Camino Real, in the San Francisco Bay Area. It went along parallel with what was called Bloody Bayshore Highway.
Right.
And so El Camino Real, I like it, the King's Highway. It's my from my own upbringing, and the King's Highway existed, and it was the highway that the Hittites and the Assyrians had traveled on to get to the main trade hub at the Dead Sea.
So what you're suggesting is then the ending for this season of Oak Island. They're not going to find anything.
That's right.
Oh, man, you're bumming me out. You're bumming me out.
No, unless they go... Jimmy, unless they go to the other side of the island, and if the individuals who say that they have discerned what they say they've discerned is accurate, then they're going to find something there. They've got all they have all the coordinates now. They know what has been supposedly discerned. So it's up to them. The problem is there's multiple ownership of the land in that particular area. There isn't where the money pit is.
Right. And so the radar and sonar readings that they have now with the chamber that show clearly what I think are a couple of boxes down at the bottom. You think those are just anomalies, and that chamber itself is empty?
Well, there might be some. There may be a little bit of something left, but we're not talking about the treasure that everybody, wants to be there, the Ark of the Covenant, or some of the other items that are purported to be there. There may be some things left that won't amount to much, but not a solid treasure. Like we're talking about. That's supposedly been discerned on the other side of the island.
I want to switch to Gobekli Tepe really quick. And as you know, Gobekli Tepe, it's talked about nearly every single day on this show, and it doesn't matter who I have on the show. Everybody, I could have somebody on this show that is an automobile designer, and we can get Gobekli Tepe into the conversation. It's not a problem.
I noticed just waiting and listening to your recordings. I kept hearing Gobekli Tepe. It just completely out of context.
It's because it to me it answers so many questions, and it raises so many questions too at the same point. But for you, Buff, and you're a historian, you're into linguistics. How important do you think Gobekli Tepe is, or do you think that there is another Gobekli Tepe yet to be discovered? Because we're going back 12,000 years now. Is there another site like Gobekli Tepe out there waiting to be discovered, or do you think right now the start of everything is at Gobekli Tepe?
Oh, there may be an older Gobekli Tepe. There could easily be an older one. I don't know that there is. There's nothing that it automatically points to that, but by deductive reasoning, if there's Gobekli Tepe, there's going to be something else. There's going to be a predecessor of some kind that led to the elegance and eloquence of Gobekli Tepe, the beautiful. Here's the statement that's on the outside of that book, The Destruction of Sodom, and I mentioned Gobekli Tepe, and you'll see why I'm gonna read this to you.
Sure.
Not since the relatively recent discoveries of the world's oldest known temple, 11,500 years old, at Gobekli Tepe in Turkey, or the legendary lost city of Iram Ubar, has there emerged as important a set of conclusive proofs of the existence of biblical, Quranic, and other lost cities than what we find in Graham Harris's The Destruction of Sodom. What I was trying to say there is that there have been game-changing discoveries, and then there have been interesting discoveries. Gobekli Tepe is the ultimate game changer, to my mind. I think that Iram Ubar is another game changer because it proved that, in fact, the Quran's recording of a city that sunk in the desert actually did. Maybe not for the reasons that the Quran would suggest any more than what Genesis in the Bible suggests about Sodom, but the events did happen, and Iram did exist as a trade city on the surface of the earth, not sunk into the sand. Same thing with Sodom; it existed as a trade city, not a mythical city that just was extinguished by God as a punishment for people's wrongdoing, which is also what the Muslims through the Quran think happened to Iram. So when we know that these cities did exist, and we now have the proof they existed, and then we get Gobekli Tepe with the oldest temple known to exist, or to have existed that long ago, 11,500 to 12,000 years ago, is just mind-boggling. And especially when you think about what the implications are before agriculture, as we understand it.
So you and I can debate that point. I have no problem going there. But let me ask you this. You've just referenced it a few times here as a temple. What makes you jump to that conclusion?
Well, if it's calendrical or if it's astronomical in terms of a reckoning device, it's still a temple. In ancient times, there was no separation of astronomical reckoning and divinity and God or gods. Those separations did not occur. They're found nowhere in any literature, anywhere. It just doesn't exist. So a structure like that, with animals that appear to be deified in association with mystifying symbols, a code of some kind is definitely there. Can lead to only one conclusion, to one deduction, and that it's a temple. It's a place that celebrated one way or another creation. Look at all the animals that there are carved there.
Well, I find a few things fascinating, and you're the decoding guy. But at the main temple, and I think it's C, there are 12 pillars. And I don't think that is coincidence throughout history where 12 is just repeated, 12 disciples, 12 months of the year, 12 signs of the zodiac. There's, 12, 12, 12, 12. There's hundreds of references, if not thousands of references to 12. When you see those 12 pillars, what are you thinking? Are you thinking months? Are you thinking zodiac? Coincidence? Why would they have 12 pillars? Is it a direct calendar reference?
Probably. I mean, yeah, I would say that is what it is. It's a calendrical reckoning device. I've always thought that about Gobekli Tepe. Never had really any doubt about that. That it's sidereal in the sense of related to placements of astral bodies of stars and objects in space. That in the same way the Giza Plateau is.
Well, Giza is 7,000 years separated from it, and that just blows my mind. 7,000 years. Yeah. I mean, that it just sounds impossible that there was a culture, but obviously it happened because Gobekli Tepe is real. It exists. But how could a civilization grasp that type of intelligence to come up with not only a calendar, the reference of 12, and the stars and astrology 7,000 years prior to what was going on in Mesopotamia and Sumer and the Giza Plateau? What does that suggest to you?
Well, I mean, to note cycles that might add up to 12 is, these people had a lot of time on their hands frequently, depending on what time of year. They counted 12 cycles across the span of a year is self-evident. And to then memorialize that with structures, it's the perfection of the structures and the details on the structures that get to me. Not so much that people were able to account for 12.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, okay, and then we're going to be up against our last break, and I'm going to have you hang on for a few extra minutes because we have to have intelligent debate on this, and you and I, it's going to be great. But you suggested, and we'll pick this up after the break, that this was pre-farming, pre-agricultural intelligence, but wouldn't that be the reason to have a calendar, to know when to plant your fields? So you can't have it both ways.
No, but why would that be the only reason for a calendar?
I would think I'd want to know when to plant fields.
Right, but why would that be the only reason to have a calendar? Why wouldn't there be other reasons for it?
That's what I'm asking you. What's the other reason? Because, Buff, the reason for me is so I can go plant my fields. You're suggesting another reason. What would that be?
There could be any number of reasons. To also know when it's going to be cold, to be awestruck by the wonder of 12 cycles across the span of a year.
Okay.
To be puzzled by that. I mean, that in and of itself, it would have value. Why wouldn't it?
Yeah, it suggests such extreme intelligence. And my question is, and let's take our break, where did they get it from? I mean, you didn't wake up one day and go, hey, man, 12 is cool. You know what I mean? It just didn't happen. And the knowledge of how
if the year only has 12 cycles, you can't say 14 or 8. Right?
Buff Parry. More with Buff when we come back right after this. Stay with us. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Attention, all Fade or Not. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's jimmychurchradio.com, Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy, Gobekli Tepe.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
Hey everybody, what's up? Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and check this out. The 2015 MUFON Symposium will be held this September 24th through the 27th in beautiful downtown Irvine, California. Expanding ufology, opening new doors in academia, industry, and media. Former Defense Minister of Canada Paul Hellyer will be there in person. Former CNN news anchor Cheryl Jones, TV news journalist Jaime Maussan, and MUFON's chief photo analyst Mark D'Antonio. They're just a few of the growing list of names for the 2015 event. It's September 24th through the 27th at the beautiful Hotel Irvine. Get your tickets today at MUFONSymposium.com. That's MUFONSymposium.com. Gobekli Tepe.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back. It's Monday, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Buff Parry is with us. One of my favorite guests that seriously, that I can just sit and talk to like this and try to get my questions answered. And Buff, I'm watching Twitter and with our comments right before the break, and check this out. I'm going to throw these out at you.
Okay.
This is from Stallone. He says, doesn't 12 also represent the planets and their respective moons in our solar system? And the asteroid belt used to be a planet too as well. That's one comment. Another one is, if you're going to travel in space, you need a very accurate calendar. Do you ever think about maybe an intelligence that maybe came off planet and assisted ancient man? Do you ever go there? Because I do. I go there constantly. The intelligence seemed to just fall out of the sky, and there's all these references to, gods from the heavens and arriving from the heavens. Every god seemed to have come from an intelligence came from the heavens. Do you ever go there?
Yeah, I have periodically gone there. I often then, leave there once recognizing we're into an infinite regression, following that line of reasoning, because, everybody will have been through a similar experience. So whoever brought intelligence to us, our knowledge or technology or, whatever we want to call the gift, they had to have had their own visitors. And then those visitors had to have their own visitors.
Sure.
So, but I mean, so where does this end? Where do you go with that reasoning? I don't have a problem with it as a plausible, explanation, but knowing that it is an infinite regression, that you can't get out of it. Once you get into it, you have to go then to the, what is the original first principle to this? Who visited the first travelers in space to give them their knowledge and wisdom? And then, if there is a first to this, then there won't have been a people who visited, or a sentient being that visited the first travelers.
Well,
what got them going then? If we're dependent on this as an explanation.
Well, I'll suggest this. You and I are speaking. We're 1,000 miles apart right now. We have this amazing technology, and here you and I are communicating today. What got us to this point? And what I mean by that is we are completely unique, you and I, on planet Earth. If evolution and everything was supposed to come into play that makes you and I talking right now today, then why aren't chimpanzees right now building condos in trees with a lighting system? Just because they've gone through evolution and gotten to that point. Why aren't killer whales right now rapping on cell phones underneath the sea? We are the only ones that have taken that leap. We are so completely unique. Our DNA, which appeared out of nowhere 200,000 years ago. Was that a lightning strike that caused DNA to grow on? It just doesn't make any sense unless there was a reason to put us here to begin with. And could that have come off planet? Because we are so unique, Buff. You are such a unique individual. You are beyond unique.
I've been asked the question if I'm an alien or not.
That's my point. I mean, how unique are we? We are so unique that we even just appeared. We just appeared. Homo sapien. We just appeared out of nowhere. Everything else is just the same as it was. No, there's no evolutionary process in the tiger or the shark. Shark's been around for 100 million years. He ain't driving cars, but we are. And that's what I find fascinating. I just think that the intelligence came from somewhere else. It did, and it was a gift.
Okay, I mean that is one reasonable conclusion, but I can say this, that whales and elephants have communication abilities far superior to cell phones. To use your example, far superior. They can traverse with their communication not hundreds, but thousands of miles.
But they've been doing it forever. They haven't taken it to the next step. They had that ability.
But why would they need to? If the point is to get the message across, and they're doing it over hundreds and thousands of miles, why would you need to take that anywhere else? I mean, you've already reached that.
Right. So if that's I'll go with you on it to a point. Why aren't they literally popping their heads out of the ocean and communicating to us? Why haven't they taken that evolutionary step? I know how intelligent, dolphins are. I get that. And killer whale, I get that. I really, really do. Chimpanzees and apes, I see the intelligence there. But it's the same intelligence that they had 100,000 years ago. We are the only ones that thought of humor and invention and thought and dreams and just everything. We are the only ones. We're the only ones.
But we're not. We're not the only ones that invent. Many different species invent all kinds of tools to do all kinds of things. But they're limited. I think I'm not disagreeing with where you're going, but invention is not our exclusive preserve. It's done by animals all over the place, and in so many different ways. It's more where we have gone with what we've invented, and how we keep adding to it or morphing it or stylizing or building upon, or we don't stop. We as a species we keep going, and keep going, and there's no end to any of the directions that we take. And I think that's the difference. There's an ending to directions that other species take. And once they reach that, and are content, and they're surviving. There isn't that impetus to go anywhere else, genetically evolve or culturally, create something. They've done it. They're content. They're happy. They're blissed out. They're in heaven. We are lacking that.
But weren't we? But okay. But weren't we happy and content living and forging for seeds 200,000 years ago? And we, why did we end up here the way we are today, as opposed to being happy and content 200,000 years ago? Some significant change happened in our DNA 200,000 years ago to make us who we are now, speaking on microphones separated by 1,000 miles. That's insane to think about. And we made the changes really, really, really fast. I mean, lightning quick. Everything happened overnight. What was the miracle that happened in our DNA 200,000 years ago? Unless there wasn't some kind of divine intervention.
Or 50,000 years ago, or 20,000 years ago. There are these milestones that are given.
Yes.
Where there's some kind of big change in a specific period of time. There was this fad about the invention of writing that got very popular a few years ago. That something had happened to the brains of the people of Mesopotamia, and that's why writing evolved. Because something occurred in the brains of the people who lived in that region, until it became apparent that, wait a minute, there's all kinds of syntax and grammar to all these petroglyphs and pictographs.
See, you're answering my question for me. There's something very unique in our DNA that allows for all of this. And you go back 200,000, what was that divine intervention that started this, started us along this path? When I say divine, E.T., it could have been that. It could have been something else. I don't know. But what I do know is we are unique on planet Earth, not in the universe, but here on planet Earth, there's only us. And then there's every other species out there. It's only us that are driving cars and surfing the internet. And how and when this happened, it's such a unique situation to have happened, and it happened at 200,000 years ago. Boom! We just.
But keep asking the question. Then why is everything so exponentially accelerating right now in such an extremely brief period of time? If everything happened 200,000 years ago, then why didn't we go through all of this invention then?
Programmed in the DNA, and you said it yourself. You said it at 20,000 years, 15,000 years, 10,000 years, 5,000 years, 100 years ago. Suddenly, where in the last 80 years, we go from riding horses in 1900 to walking on the moon in 1969. So everything was just absolutely programmed to happen at certain times around the world. When you look at architectural development, not only with the pyramids, but let's say square windows are showing up at different cultures around the world, separated by vast bodies of water. But yet we're designing stair steps and windows and architecture and roofs, the wheel, fire. All of these things happened at around the same time, but across vast distances. The only way that could be is maybe it was just programmed in our DNA. There's no other real answer for it. Language and mathematics was happening around the world virtually at the same time. Where does this come from unless it was programmed in that DNA of ours?
but now now that you've put this on the table, you have to explain, how does that programming work?
If I knew, but and you know what's fascinating with it is we can't argue that it does exist. There is a reason why. I'll give an example. All beavers build dams, right? Okay, no matter what part of the world you're in, beavers are building dams. Well,
right.
it's in their DNA. It's in our DNA. Buff. I can't explain it.
Well, it's part of the instinct repertoire that involves DNA, but that's only one factor, one component, the DNA. There are other components going on, morphological components. There's a whole lot that's at work to do what it is that you're describing. DNA is a part of it. It's not certainly all of it. And we are not the only speakers of language. It turns out, birds speak language. They literally have grammar.
Yes. There's no doubt about that.
And so it for some time it was considered exclusive to us. Now it's pretty much recognized that there's many species engage language. They don't have the parts of the brain that we have where language rests or is housed, vernix area. There are certain regions of the human brain that animals don't have. And that those regions give us an ability to sort of almost have algorithmic language, in distinction from what animals have in the way that they communicate. Although they do have the Hermann Hesse glass bead game, they do have the syntax without a doubt. I think I'm not disagreeing with the ultimate conclusion that is implicit in what you're saying. I don't disagree with that. I think that there's a lot. There's a lot to pick and choose from, though.
Well, and the problem that the reason why I'm so direct with it, Buff, is because the answer that is given to us from Richard Dawkins, the doofus that he is, I don't care how smart he thinks he is, or guys like that just want to say it just happened. It was all by accident. That's where my BS meter goes off, Buff, because
mine does too. The anomaly category is the one that gets to me.
Absolutely,
it's something they can't explain. It's an anomaly.
It just happened.
As if that is saying what it is that happened. It's an anomaly. That doesn't tell us anything about what it is that happened. It's anomalous to everything else, but it's not saying what it is or what it is that exactly happened. The disciplines are filled with cop-outs like that. They get frustrated, and so they just invent their own their own sort of lexicon to wrap themselves in and feel content and that they've answered an age-old question when they actually haven't, but they convince themselves that they have with something like the word anomaly. It is it's
I
disturbing.
love it. Yeah, I know. I would love to have Richard Dawkins on the show, and he will one day. We're going to go toe to toe. And he ain't going to be happy. He's not. And I don't have a PhD. I don't have crazy letters following my name. I don't claim any of that. Harvard, Yale, Oxford. I'm not going there. But I will lay that guy to rest. I will stop him in his tracks. Let me ask you this, Buff. You have the ability to look at the paintings of Poussin, to look at the cave paintings in the south of France, and decode and look at things in a very pragmatic black and white way and figure things out. When you look at Gobekli Tepe, at the 3D reliefs and the iconic the scorpions or the symbolism of the bull on one of the columns, I think is absolutely extreme. There's a reason for it being there. Are you starting to deduce a message? Is there something there that they are trying to communicate to us, 12,000 years later? Are you starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together? Because right now, nobody's got any answers when it comes to Gobekli Tepe. So what do you think the message is? Are you decoding it slowly?
Slowly. I do think it's a sidereal reckoning device. I have no doubt about that. But by that is meant that it is the layout is associated with stellar entities, and that it's a reflection of something. You have to know how to read it to know what it's a reflection of exactly. That is above us, that is in the heavens. So it is calendrical. It's a reckoning device that is calendrical. For what reason? I think is the important question. If they weren't agricultural people, then what? To go to your line of reasoning, then what is it all for? But I've never had to depend on agriculture in a placement, that's part of a logical sequencing, because we are innately endowed with a capacity to believe and to have spiritual experiences. We don't need agriculture for that. And I think as a species, we preceded with all that what is called agriculture. The spiritual identity that humanity has far preceded agriculture. Agriculture was not. We didn't have to have agriculture to then have spirituality.
You're the only person to say that. That takes some nad. Oh, I don't mean you're the only one, but I mean that goes against all existing logic out there when it comes to history and archaeology and civilization. I find that's a little bit hard for me. When you're talking about what came first, the chicken or the egg. Well, mainstream anything says farming came first. Without that, we don't develop our brains. But I agree.
Oh, I would never agree with that, ever. Not even slightly.
See,
that it took agriculture to develop our brains?
Yeah,
definitely not. It was much healthier food that we ate before agriculture. Our brains did not develop to where they developed because of agriculture. In fact, if anything, agriculture would have inhibited and retarded our neuronal development.
That's
because
why
of the lack of diversity.
That's why you're on this show, Buff. Hey, let me ask you one other thing. The 3D cheetah, that's on the column at Gobekli Tepe. It's facing the ground. There's a reason why it's not facing up or sideways. It took a long time to carve that guy. There's there's a message there. There are snakes that are pointing to the ground, and some are pointing, that are at the base of things. There's a certain communication that they were trying to, it's speaking to us, but we haven't figured out why that cheetah is facing the ground as opposed to up.
Why would it necessarily? Cheetahs can climb trees. So why would it not? Why does it have to be facing up?
I don't know. I'm asking, why would they have it facing down? But
I mean, I don't. To me, that question wouldn't arise because it could be either up or down, and you could ask the same question: why is it facing up?
So you're saying it's just cool art? He was just sculpting a cheetah.
No, not necessarily. I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm saying that it's not any more anomalous to have it facing down than it is to have it facing up, because it would have to come down off the tree if it's gone up the tree.
Interesting. So don't read anything into it.
Okay. No, I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying. I'm saying that it doesn't have to mean that there's a big message any more than if it was facing up.
I got you.
Because it's got to be coming down as often as it's going up. But here's a question: Why do you think Mormons place the time of the emigration of the Lamanites and the Jaredites and the Nephites to the time period that they do, when the arrival in North America of them.
Okay.
Have you ever thought about that? Like, where did they get that figure? Where did that come from?
If you know what, I'll give you my answer off the air, because if I don't want to freak people out or offend anybody in one fell swing of the hammer.
Okay.
But I'll give you my answer off of the air because I'm pretty opinionated when it comes to Salt Lake City. Okay, so I need to tiptoe here.
Do I need to tiptoe?
No, you can do whatever you want.
Okay. It's they embrace all of the artifacts that that you and I have gone over as evidence of their interpretation of history.
Yes.
They have not become aware of the fact that there was a cataclysmic event in that time period, and that all of these artifacts date to that event span of time. And that's what accounts for why they all appear to be from the same period of time over here. It's the event that precipitated their movement, and because it was a trade center where the event occurred. So there will be people there who are, especially considering the King's Highway and so forth, who will have these items with them, and amidst the event, whether it's just before or in the restoration period, that they're coming together, and that they would have been on the same ships together. Not that there were, misdoings of Jaredites and Lamanites and the people who are the Nephites, and they had to leave the Middle East, and seek another land, which is the argument. And it happened to be North America. The timing that they're saying that all happened, that people populated North America, is the exact time that's with those artifacts, and it's the time of the destruction of Sodom.
Thank you so much, Buff. Thank you so much. Absolutely amazing show. I've literally got 5 seconds before I need to start reading credits. Thank you so much, Buff. As always, great, intelligent conversation tonight. I absolutely enjoyed all of it. Thank you so much, Buff.
Okay.
And
yes. Sorry.
No. I just wanted to say to everybody, Parliament of the World Religions, Salt Lake City, this October 15th through the 19th, featuring the Dalai Lama and Mr. Buff Parry. Thank you, Buff. Have a great night.
Oh, thank you.
All the best.
Best to you, too.
Buff Parry, everybody. We ran it to the very end. I got to get out of here. Absolutely. One of the smartest guys that I know. Thank you, Buff. Great conversation tonight. This is Fade to Black. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Show's produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldridge. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication, KGRA The Planet. Tomorrow night, right here, David Weatherly, The Intruders. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2015 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Everybody be safe. Gobekli Tepe.